play Savage Worlds, whether we're at the table or over the internet. In our role-playing game, fantasy is just the beginning. From the Wild West to the depths of outer space and beyond. Anytime, any place. They're all Savage Worlds.
Howdy, Space Cowboys! We are celebrating the final hour of the Deadlands Lost Colony Mad World BackerKit campaign. We are fully funded, surpassing expectations, even got in more backers than the previous Maw of Oblivion, which was amazing. Also by Daryl. So we are growing the brand here on this one. And so we got 1 hour left in the campaign. We'll get to the campaign page in a second if you're just joining us on the Lost Colony adventure. But we've got with us tonight Shane Hensley, Pinnacle founder, visionary, creator of the Lost Colony, Deadlands, all that good stuff, and creative director Daryl Hayhurst, who wrote the new Mad World. So welcome, fellas.
Thanks.
Howdy.
So I think first question goes to Shane. I mean, this is a storied property. We've got Pinnacle's got a lot of settings. I mean, we do a lot of different games. This is one in the Deadlands family of settings. Do you want to give people a little snippet if they haven't played Lost Colony? Where does it fit in the whole greater Deadlands arcana?
Okay, so of course the story of Deadlands began with the Weird West, both in the real world and in our current in the narrative. And in Deadlands Hell on Earth, it posits that the bad guys won, and the Reckoners actually materialized on Earth, walked about the Earth, and created hell on Earth. And one of our antagonists, Dr. Hellstrom, finally realizes what madness he's wrought. And he's been trying to find a way to get into hell since the Weird West, and there's a whole backstory as to why. But he accidentally discovers a wormhole to another planet in the future of Hell on Earth, and that turns out to be the Faraway system. So people colonize it. They find out that the planet that they're living on, Banshee, is actually a living organism. And Dr. Hellstrom goes back to Hell on Earth via his spaceship, the Unity, captures the Reckoners with the party's help in an adventure called the Unity. And that ship, kind of like a Ghostbusters ghost trap, transports the Reckoners to Banshee, crash lands in a horrific way, and the Reckoners are set loose on a living planet. Because the living planet is what it is, they are weakened. Now, they're still crazy powerful, but you can actually defeat them now. And that is indeed what we've done. So in the first book, Lost Colony, you defeat war. And in Daryl's The Maw of Oblivion, you defeat famine. And in this one, we're up against pestilence. And I say we're up against because I'm playing it and having a great time. Daryl is a fantastic GM. He's a very animated GM. And he and I trying to pantomime discussions between the Anooks last night and our party were pretty hilarious. Nobody in our party speaks Anook.
Like a bunch of the archetypes have at least a D4 and a Nook. You know, if you're a ranger, you have to know some. If you're in a Nook, you know it already. The way the party composition came out, like nobody knows a word, and
we're a terrible party. I couldn't tell you what we're doing because we can't persuade anybody. We don't speak the local languages. Our combat abilities aren't particularly good.
2 of you are already dead.
Well, really, it's more than that because one started dead, one became dead and became harrowed, and Simon has died. I think he died 4 times last night.
One night.
He has 2 permanent injuries from last night.
Wait, is that why he had to go to the doctor this morning with a floater in his eye because Daryl tried to kill him?
That's the real world, Chris. That's a little different.
And Shane's still worried it's too easy.
Because we survived it. We're fun. We're a fun crew.
That is epic. Well, I'm totally jealous that you guys get to play. I mean, okay, so here's the thing. Like, you know, I'm a Hair Club for Men, you know, customer, also a fan, Pinnacle. I think one of the best things about the philosophy of this company is that everything we put out is play tested. I think there's a trend in early publishing for like, hey, I've got a really cool sounding idea for a gimmick or a rule change or something. It just sounds great on paper. I'll release it to the world. That's not what PEG does at all. I mean, the fact that there are the kill your darlings or whatever, the fact that like rules that sound great. I mean, hey, whole things like cough, cough, shaken or whatever that, you know, between the evolutionary editions of the game are, hey, it sounded great on paper. It was a little more symmetrical. You know, things like, you know, dice capping at D12 because it feels good there.
There's some caveats to that. And coming from a video game MMO background, one of the things we saw a lot was we would play test the hell out of a scenario in City of Heroes, City of Villains, for example, right? And then it would release to the public. And, you know, there's a difference between a studio of 80-some people playtesting something and hundreds of thousands of people playtesting it, right? And you can't always get all the combinations. So we can't play through the whole campaign with, you know, everybody in heavy body armor and machine guns, or 3 extra psychers or 2 extra breakers or whatever arcane backgrounds are there, and each of those having different power sets. You know, we won't get all those combinations. So, you know, as the guy who is responsible for who has to take responsibility for everything that's bad about the game, that's what I tend to. I absorb it and hold on to it hard. You know, Daryl can bask in the glow of how much fun we're having, but I'm going, that backwash power should have been a little more powerful for the proper points. That's the nature of the beast, right? But we do play test everything. We play our game constantly, and I think it's far better for it.
Yeah, and that's our philosophy is around that fun part of it, and you got to do it to know if it's fun or not. And let's, like, I don't know. To me, what I think has always been the strengths of Savage Worlds before I worked there, right, is like you get it to the table and go, okay, you know, I can do this. Like it's intuitive on that level, and it takes a lot of work to make it that once it reaches people at the table. Like we try not to make the GM have to carry that entire load of balancing that and figuring that out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the, you know, Daryl hit on it as the kind of the other great thing. I mean, there's many, but you know, number 2 to the list is making it easier on the game master. I mean, there's definitely a trend in the products we create and the rules that we have that makes it easier to get to the table, right? This is a game designed to be played. It is not I mean, it looks really pretty on the shelf. Like, I'm going to show off some players' books later that look gorgeous on the shelf. But it is not a navel-gazing game. It is a game that is designed to get people to have fun at a table, to communicate live or on BTT, whatever it is. So, I mean, that's why we do like the campaign exclusives for this campaign. You know, the archetype cards and those kind of things. That it's designed to be as easy as possible with as minimum prep as you can get to still have a really kind of engaging story. So,
because we're all old, right? Like we're out of time. Some of us have kids or whatever, and it's like, when you're playing in high school and college, you have all the time in the world to like do this stuff and make these things for yourself and build characters and all of that. But the older we get or the busier we get, it's more like, well, how much of that can you do for me so I can actually get a game together and play? You know, 'cause that's what everyone. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And it also allows you to put the time into what the aspects that you care about, right? So maybe you want to build a really big experience for your players based on their backstories. Maybe you just want to get to the table and are grateful that you get to play it all. Or like Carl Kiesler or my son Ronan, who's running Necessary Evil right now, right? So Daryl and I, we're very happy to throw some pawns on the table and draw it on a battle map and go. But my son Ronan, he puts a ton of effort into it, right? So if you follow us on the official Savage Worlds group on Facebook, you'll see some of the pictures. But he does these huge, elaborate cityscapes, and he's got kind of a set piece battle ready for every adventure. Now, there's some narrative and so forth that leads up to it, but that's going to happen. And he's bought these big city skyscraper sets, and he's got all the right minis and the toys to throw out there. And it's really cool to see him do that. Carl Kiesler, is another one who does that. If you ever get to play one of his games, it is a visual feast to play on the table. Right?
It is. You can't walk past Carl's table and not stop and be like, what? How? And he'll do it like for 4 different set pieces, like, at a con. So it's like, oh, like here's this entire city. Oh, and here's like next game, a completely different. Here's an entire trailer park. And you're like, what is happening over there? How do you transport these things?
I know every time I see Carl at a convention, I see him dragging in a suitcase. I'm like, oh, you poor guy. But he's done such an amazing job of making it so mobile too, right? It's really, really amazing. But back to the point, it really does. Some people, and we've said it before too. Sometimes you want to say, let the rules not get in the way of the story. But the truth is, I think the rules augment the story, right? Like Jody's critical failures, or the fact that last night we had the set piece adventures in Daryl's game Mad World are incredible, and they were scary and frightening, and I can talk about those too. But then we had some random encounters on the way to the next one, and we had so much fun doing them. And they didn't really go the way that we thought they would, and a lot of that was because bad die rolls, no skills, etc. And that's where I pushed back a little bit on the let's not roll dice, let's just tell a story. Well, the dice helped us interpret what was going on and tell a story we wouldn't have told otherwise. Yeah. So I love watching how that affects the group, and then how they grab the narrative and ad lib from there. And I think that's really fun.
Yeah, they absolutely ruined my narrative plan. You just kind of go with it like, well, okay. I guess we are fighting Reapers now. Like, this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, best laid plans, right?
Yeah, that's where the fun comes from. But
and Lost Colony is especially fun for me because the characters are all based on real people. So I'm the kid. This goes back to the card game we posed for them. My friend Jason Nichols was Lassiter. Mario Banson, who is no longer with us, was Jolly Ho, and Nikolai, who we were interacting with last night, was my friend Dave Wilson. So, to have Dave come out and be a total dick to us was just about right. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I didn't say it was a good likeness. Clearly, the kid's gotten a lot older, too.
The kid lifts. No, he's
yeah, that also means I have to be like really careful who I just murder offhand. Because it'll be like, hey, by the way, like I know that guy. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Well, I'm pretty sure I snuck the image with Daryl's character into the. I mean, I was probably going to do this a little bit later, but I want to share some pages from.
That's Nikolai, and that's not me, right? Like
it's not you.
That's Dave Wilson. But I do think like I'm growing into that look.
There we go.
Yeah, that's Nikolai. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Well,
yeah, and now the artists who are doing the art now didn't have the photo references that the artist who did the original art did. So it doesn't really look like Dave now, but that's who they were based on.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that was the image.
Coolest. I've posted it a few times. I'll try to find it again. But the coolest one we ever did, there was an Origins probably about 2001 where we all dressed as our characters and we posed in front of I think it was a Bradley, a U.S. Army or U.S. Marine actually fighting vehicle at Origins. We all posed in front of it, and then somebody photoshopped the background of Banshee behind it. So it looks like all those characters for real in front of the Bradleys. That was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, we will get that. We will share it. We'll make sure people get to see it.
I think it's actually in the Lost Colony book. It's like the first page has that. I think it has that picture.
You're right.
Okay, hot. So while Shane's looking that up, I would be remiss, I would get fired if we didn't point out that we are in the final hour of the Mad World campaign. So I just put a comment in the chat. So folks who aren't joining us, we have a BackerKit campaign. That's a crowdfunding platform. The reason you'd want to go to a crowdfunding platform and not wait for this to hit retail is that we are offering campaign exclusives. And the campaign, let's pull this up here. There we go. So there's the link. It's BackerKit.com. And we are the featured part of the day. So I think we are on the front page if you just want to go to BackerKit.com. But so yeah, thank you guys. Our goal for this was a simple $2,000 goal, and we have hit it out of the park. We're closing in on 42K. Almost 680 backers right now. So thank you. We appreciate your continued support. So the great thing about this campaign, I'll get to this is all the things you're going to get. And so this is kind of one of those just a book kind of campaigns. We've already put out the big box set with the original Lost Colony. And so we've got some supplemental pawns, the Pestilence bounty card, which matches the first two we released with the core and with Maw of Oblivion. Or I think we redid Maw of Oblivion was the first time we released those. We made one for War. And then those lovely archetype cards. So because the archetype cards and the Pestilence card are not going to go to retail, they're not going to have their own box. We are going to shrink wrap them in with your book when you pledge. So that's how you're going to get those things. That's why we can't offer them as like add-ons for a digital pledge. So those are campaign exclusive. You got to get in during the campaign, or else you got to wait for the next one, maybe, because of course you want the card. But
this is one of those things where we never really planned to do these as items, right? Like, they kind of only exist because we have fun with them and wanted to get them out. And this felt like the best way to do it without forcing them on people. Like if you just want the book, get the book, but it's really, really cheap to upgrade, get this stuff. But one of the reasons that we can make it cheap is they're not going to be in boxes. They're not going to have packaging and all of these other things that you would need to sell them as separate products. It's pretty much, we'll just shrink wrap them, like you said, to the book and, have fun. And you can put it in your Lost Colony box or with your other stuff. But this is a way to get fun stuff to people as, cheaply as we can, make it fit, what we're going for.
And to be honest, we kind of based it on what we want for our game. We want these pawns, we want these cards, we want these maps. So, because we are our target audience, they tend to be the things that you will want for your game as well.
Yeah.
100%. So so just in case you guys are finding this perpetuity, these are our pledge levels. If you're a digital customer, it's a very cheap buy-in, just $15 for the Mad World book only digital. And if you want just a book in print, it's $30. Pretty soon, it's as cheap as we can get it. This is pre-tariff pricing that we will honor. So now's a good time to get in on this. And if you want the plus, if you want all the good stuff, and we know you want the good stuff. If you're the game master and you want the fiddly bits, the fun paper, as Daryl calls it, the fun paper edition is a $40 print and digital. It's the featured one. And if you're just getting into Lost Colony, $75 gets you in on the digital, and $150, which is a $50 savings or more. $50 savings on the MSRP, and then the shipping is much, much better. Yeah. Pick up the $150, that gets you in for everything in the Lost Colony set. This is the third of the 4 Reckoner stories, but that is not the ending for Lost Colony. So
it might. Who knows how it'll work out for the Reckoners, but the Lost Colony will continue unless you guys kill it. Sorry. Be careful out there, posses. The world's on the line here.
That's true. That is true.
It's all right. There's asteroids, so if Banshee gets creamed, there's still options.
I mean, asteroids work for the dinosaur. Like, if you want to hit the reset button, that's how we do it. So I actually did have some questions I wanted to ask you guys. And so, Daryl, what's the biggest inspiration for Mad World and its focus on Pestilence?
Yeah. So, I mean, when the Lost Colony book came out, right, there's a sidebar, it says, hey, you're going against war, but it kind of gives you a feeling for the other Reckoners are still out there. Like, where can you take your own game from here? And that sidebar, I think it was John Goff that wrote it, was kind of my roadmap. because GMs out there have already been maybe working towards these things in their own way. So I didn't want to swerve too hard away from what we said in those. So like that kind of made the superstructure of it, and then the rest of it gets down into, okay, well, we know some things about these Reckoners from Deadlands, and we know what their deal is. Now, what would they be doing here on this world, and how do we lean into what makes them them, right? So when you think about it, like after you see all of the different places on Banshee in the faraway system, where else would Pestilence go but a place called the Toxic Jungle, which is just like a festering boil on the side of the world, of the living world. It's like, yeah, of course he would live on a scab, and be doing his thing there and gaining his power there. Where else would Famine go but the asteroid belt, where everyone is mining and scraping and trying to get supplies to live, where even oxygen is in short supply. Where else would Famine go but something where, the necessities of life are so difficult to get? And then
no, that is fantastic. So we put out every campaign. We usually put out 2 exclusive drive-through RPG previews of monsters, locations, cool new mechanics, or in-game. In this one, we had a vehicle, which is pretty cool. But so tell us about Cullis. Cullis is kind of this fascinating villain character. How does he fit into?
And what's hilarious is Shane's group hasn't met him yet. Like they've heard his name bandied around, right? But what always fascinated me about the Skinnies, right, is, I mean, they are absolutely monstrous forces of evil in their own, but where they're fun for a game master is they all hate each other as much as they hate the heroes. So you can have a lot of fun like doing that interplay. It's like they're not on the same team. They're trying to murder and gain power over one another as much as they are you. And then you throw the Reckoners in that. And when the Reckoners are weakened, the Skinnies are a threat to them and vice versa. So the thing that I enjoyed, because you're like, hey, we know that this plot is based around a Reckoner, but also the Skinnies are kind of like the fundamental villains of Lost Colony and Banshee. So how do we get them involved so they can play too? And in the earliest plot point against War, the Skinnies really the bigger villain. And it's kind of, around working around him to try to get to War. And out in space, we didn't do as much with the Skinnies because space, right? They're kind of slightly more Banshee focused, right? So I was like, okay, I kind of ignored them in Maw of Oblivion. It's time to like go hard and bring them back in, Mad World. So there's 2 Skinnies running around, and yeah, they both hate each other. They both hate Pestilence. They're all trying to snatch each other's stuff and get one upped, and who you have the chance to ally with them or fight them. And if you ally with them, you're monsters, right? Like, screw you guys. However, and this is one of those safety valves that we talk about, like difficulty, like if you're a legendary character, all right, we can take him. Like, well, let's have this fight. If you're coming into it weaker, that cooperation becomes a lot more enticing, where you're like, all right, we can avoid a fight that might kill half the party and even get a boost in our next fight, but we have to make a deal with a literal devil. It's kind of built so that you can go either way with that. So.
I think it's very, very awesome. I mean, you are dealing with these. I mean, obviously, the Reckoners are weakened because of the planet. That's but the scale of threat in Lost Colony is huge, right? I mean, it is a it's almost like super level kind of world-ending kind of threats kind of.
Oh thing. Yeah, it is, and that's why it's like like you should be starting at least at one level. It's okay if you're higher. some threats you'll walk over, but that's okay. There's others that are just as strong. And you'll want to be up in that legendary zone by the time you're facing a Reckoner for real, right? And they're not alone. Like, they've got their allies and their servants and things like that. So that can make it very, very difficult. And though they were weakened when they arrived, several years in game have passed from that moment until now. So war you fought at his weakest. Famine was significantly stronger because she'd been sitting in a deadland, healing and gaining power. And Pestilence is the same. Like, he has found those dark places of powers. Reckoners can only kind of recover. One of the reasons why they're so weak is Banshee is light and goodness, and they can only catch their breath in the hunting grounds or a deadland, which is why they terraformed Earth in the first place. So happily or unhappily, Banshee has these refuges, these deadlands, and if they can find them and get inside, they start to get their power back. And that's why it's kind of critical. Go after them before they get enough juice back to continue their vile work.
So it wouldn't be a sci-fi staple without a cool new vehicle. So our second preview was of the Ground Grinder. I love this art. This is a great piece of art. Anigash did it for us, and
it is.
That's awesome.
So rules.
Yeah. So tell us, is this an in-jungle vehicle? What makes it special? How does it kind of fit into the whole?
Yeah. So there are, even in the core book, there are fusion crawlers and transports that make the trek up and down the jungle. I wanted something like a little sleeker, a little more sexy for a PC group to be like, ooh, instead of a tractor, like, let's take this thing. And also, I mean, we've all seen Damnation Alley, and who didn't want to be driving that around? Or even like Saturday Morning Arc 2. It's like, okay, it's got to be like a big, long, futuristic van with at least 3 wheels on each side, and then it's going to be like fitting into that zone that we want it, and heavily armed. And the other thing about it is the toxic jungle is really nasty, not just because of the wildlife, but because it has toxins, it has heat, it has all of these environmental things that can really wipe you out. So a vehicle more purposefully designed for that kind of environment would have those sealed compartments so that you can go inside an airlock, take your tox suit off, and take a breather, which is not necessarily an option in some of the other vehicles. So it makes it a really good sort of like PC, wheeled vehicle. You can always use your spaceship, but there's problems taking off and landing in the toxic jungle. So like, you can try, but you're probably going to bang your ship up pretty good, and you're still going to end up walking to some locations. So it isn't a bad thing to get the cool Ground Grinder and use that to tool around from plot point to plot point.
Well, and that brings up like one of my favorite parts about the sci-fi companion, which is arriving as we speak in lots of people's front porches, is all of the sci-fi space situational environmental effects that we don't get in other settings. Zero G and low oxygen and no oxygen. So I mean, I threw them all into the adventure I wrote. I was like, let's just do them all. We're gonna go through all of them, and like like one encounter. Your ship is depressurized, and let's find out what happens. But that's fun. Those are really kind of unique things that speak to the sci-fi-ness of. What is Total Recall without the amazing scene with they're like, for some reason when the oxygen's being pulled away at the end of the movie, like their eyes gouge, and I don't know that looks all that real, but it's amazing, and I still remember it 30 years later. Yeah. So,
and one of the fun things is that one of the events hitting the toxic jungle are gravity storms. So we get to play with the 0G rules, even though we're not in space.
No, that is good. That is good. So so this one was Pestilence, and I mean, Lost Colony existed, pre-COVID. We've all had an interesting run-in with a modern plague. In Mad World, it's the Chimera plague. That's actually a pretty unique, interesting kind of mix of Earth plagues and new. So tell us about what Chimera does and how the Game Master can kind of use it to keep it interesting and fresh and
so the idea was like, he's Pestilence, right? He's gonna have a plague, and if there's a big plague around, people are going to get sick. And one of the things that we wanted to do was make it spicy, right? If you're potentially killing Pestilence here, like, this is the Omega plague. So how do you pick just one? Oh, you don't. Let's just have it all. And then it also makes story sense why, with future technology, they can't just cure it, right? Like it's got these magical strains. It will hide from microscopes when you look at it. And just when you're gaining resistance to one set of symptoms, another head of the Hydra pops out and you get sick a different way. And hopefully all of the ways are fun, right? Like, so like, oh, rabies is really nasty. What it's going to do is drive people into a rage. So you basically get zombies, like frothing at the mouth, attacking, and a hero will go berserk when they're affected by this. Like you smack them on the head and they're like, suddenly like they're going a little bit nuts. I had to make a reference to H.G. Wells' Things to Come. One of the things in his version of World War III that wipes so many people out is something called the Wandering Plague, where people get it and they can't help it. They stand up and start moving around, which spreads it. So I was like, ooh, let's make that. That's one's native to Banshee. That's not one of ours, but Banshee's got it, And so just like the curious hindrance, like will make you like, oh, I'll go off on my own to solve this mystery with that one. It's just like when it rears up, you just have to start moving in combat and become vulnerable, and B, like just kind of wander off from the party. Like, we haven't gotten that strain come up in our game yet, but some people just mutated into it. So,
and that one for lacking the gore and the special effects of like frothing mouths or skin pulling right.
I mean, they still have horrible symptoms and stuff.
Oh no, yeah, sure. But it's very cinematic. Right? I mean, like the movie of like just the people wandering where they shouldn't be is just like super creepy by itself. Like kind of like The Happening, or kind of that vein of just like
exactly.
Horror.
And they get to meet like they met one in the very first episode that we ran. But you don't know what's going on. Like it's just some creepy guy in a raincoat wandering out in the middle of this hurricane, and you're like, "What is up with that guy?" It's like kind of foreshadowing. Like, no, this is. Oh, you're muted, Shane. You're muted.
While we were fighting Reaper terrorists in a hurricane, for the record.
Show a little extra spice on top. But what else do we need here? I mean, we've got environmental effect, hurricane, yes. Super terrorist in space, yes. Oh, also plague bear, yeah. All the above.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you can do as a GM if you feel like things are too easy for your players. Is you don't have to separate these elements; just put them all in one.
So Shane, we've established you have horrible taste in friends, and and the characters you make for the playtesting are universally useless for any of the campaigns. So if you had
they're great. He's wrong. They're awesome. They just don't notice the things they're good at because they're good at them.
It's very philosophical there. I'm proud of you. So if you had the choice of like I don't know, it's a real world historical famous sci-fi and or Western, real life or characters, who would you want in your posse?
You mean in my posse in a real life situation or to play with?
Whatever sounds more interesting for you to answer. I think in both, I would pick Ripley. That was mine. Ripley would be mine. Yeah.
Well, that's a good one.
Right?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, since we're doing sci-fi, I think Star-Lord would keep me laughing, right? Ripley's going to save my butt. Harrison Ford's just going to grumble at me the whole time. So,
I mean, isn't that Simon's job now? Like Simon is Harrison Ford.
Simon just kind of stares at me like I've gone mad.
I mean, to be fair, like that's warranted about half the time.
I mean, it would be nice if it wasn't during our business meetings too. But.
My choice for players, I would choose fictional characters, and I would choose Blake's 7 to be my play group. Not because they'd be any good at it, but they would just be like bickering the whole time and coming up with weird plans and destroying everything. Kind of like our Playcrest group. So it's almost like I get to play with them already.
Nice. So this was for either of you. this is the third of the 4 reckoners. Any hint on kind of
Which one's next?
well, I mean, cross elimination. The
Surprise!
Yeah.
Yeah, next one up, the 4th of 4 is death. We haven't done anything with death yet. And that's actually, I've got a plan, So, and I like to pitch all this stuff to Shane first. And we've talked about it a little bit. So I'm not.
Sometimes in public.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Like I think he's about to do.
So, yeah. So all of this is like not set in stone, right? But death is the one person that we've got a sidebar on in the original that I'm going to change up a little bit. Like his plans changed a bit in the last 4 years now that he's got some juice back. And what I intend to do is take death to the tunnel station. So in orbit, one of the few areas like Banshee, we've got a lot of detail on, and now after Maw of Oblivion, we've got a lot of detail on the asteroids and the rocks. One of the major locations that we talk about and have even like done quick visits to is the space station that Hellstrom Industries has built that used to be the conduit to and from Earth. And that tunnel has collapsed, but that station, the factory, the living quarters, the research facilities, a city in space is still out there. And I want to visit there. And I love the idea of Death stalking those futuristic halls and having his, kind of showdown with Vanessa Hellstrom and pulling the players into that, storyline, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, and this one we have already talked about, and I think it's really cool because Daryl has done exactly what he said earlier. He worked the skinnies into this one, which has been just scary. And then taking it back to Tunnel Station and Vanessa Hellstrom is exactly where this storyline should wrap up. And then we'll see what happens after that. We've got all kinds of ideas, but we've got a lot going on in the Weird West. We want to get Hell on Earth and even Noir back out there.
Yes.
And of course, I'm sure some of you have heard that Dark Ages is on the way as well, where there's going to be some surprises.
Yeah, I mean, we got a bunch of questions in the chat. I'm sure just a couple of them are about Dark Ages. So let's run through some of these. The Moxon had a great question. They asked, if you're running a campaign through all the Deadlands, starting in the Weird West, should you play Hell on Earth then Lost Colony? Are they simultaneous? What's the preferred, the recommended?
So there's a huge gap between Weird West and Hell on Earth, right? So playing Hell on Earth first or Weird West first is certainly fun. We want you to experience that too. And going through Devil's Tower in the old Heart of Darkness series would be a cool way to get the same posse to Hell on Earth if you decided you wanted to do that. But if I were going to do kind of a truncated version of all that, I would probably run 2 or 3 Hell on Earth adventures, the Worm Turns, and then do the Unity, which is way back to classic, but it's easy to convert because all the creatures and so forth are in the new book. But the Unity adventure is key to getting to Lost Colony, and then you've just got 4 plot point campaigns to wrap up that storyline, which is pretty cool, right? I mean, it's doable in a year or so if you play every week. And the Unity adventure, be prepared because not only is it brutal, but it has one of the meanest twists we've ever put in a game, and it is my absolute favorite thing I've ever written. But you won't like me for it. You may be grinning thinking you will, but you won't.
Let's just say it's allowed me to push the envelope on some things like, I don't know, he did worse in Unity, so this will be fine.
Fair enough.
Oh, wonderful. The let's see. Yuri had a question before. Hard copy. So hard copy of the book. Do we give people a date? So we've got a mock-up on the campaign page.
Yeah.
I ran you through some of the pages. I can throw that up again if you want to see like the glorious inside. I think I scanned a little bit ahead to show off some of the art, but love the trade dress that you guys are rocking, and the art is fantastic. The skinnies are pretty scary, guys. The
usual timeline, variable based on world situations and everything that goes on, right? But to set an expectation for you, within a couple of weeks, we have PDFs out for people to read through and make their comments, and we'll go through those. Within a couple of weeks after we've done those comments, that's when we start assembling the final version to go to the printer. Within 3 or 4 months of that is when it usually that's usually how long it takes for us to start getting prototypes back from the printer and yay or nay them, and then often another 4 months to actually get stuff delivered. So we've been guessing 6 to 8 months on most things. Like I believe on the campaign we set 8 months because it is never, like in the last 3 years, the way conditions have been going, we've never hit the front end of what it should be. It's always the back end or worse. So that the goal is hard copies shipping from our partners at Studio 2 in 8 months, and then we'll see. We'll see. After that, if it actually works out the way we expect. Yeah, it should be
to your door. That's the expected process.
Correct. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, and then on most of our campaigns, or all of our campaigns now, just an easy heads up is the campaigns are for the book, and then we charge shipping separately, much closer to when the books will be heading your way. So that way we can keep up with the global trends, and but also just it makes sense that we can deliver you your digital right away, because you've already paid for it, and it's all great. So
and it kind of takes us out of that process, so like we're not trying to like move funds from places. Like no here's our section, we did it, now here's the printer, the shipping section, and that is not like that just goes straight to shipping to you. So
yeah, it also allows us people to upgrade over time too, because a lot of folks, when they're right when we come back for the shipping thing, like, oh wait, I want to throw in a couple new books that you guys have put out since. It's a really easy way to just get that final little upgrade in too. So the Nelson asks, out of curiosity, are either of you aware of an author of the Winnetow, a series of books written by Carl May? Ring a bell?
I do not know that one.
Yeah, well, we'll have to look it up, Nelson. The my feeling is that it might be space related. And then here's a cool one, because a couple folks, and Shed mentioned the Solomon Kane stuff is arriving. So yeah, big heads up. That was with our friends at Monolith. So Shane wrote it though. Shane did the writing and brought it up this way.
You're muted again, Shane.
Actually, sorry, my family's moving around in the background, so I have to keep muting it. Actually, Wiggy wrote Solomon Kane. I wrote parts of it, but he wrote the majority of it. I was definitely the driving force behind it, though, because I am a huge Solomon Kane fan, and I love what Monolith did with it. So I'm thrilled to hear that people are getting there. I don't have mine yet, which sucks. Hopefully it's on the way.
Yeah, I had to email them about my copy too. Apparently, I didn't fill out their pledge manager in time, so they're like, "You can't have it." I'm like, "Oh, they weren't prepared. Please send it anyway." So
yeah, so thanks to our former friends at Monolith.
Yeah, no, but we love that. And the also, I mean, as long as we're here, a shout out to Tracy Sizemore, who is also about to launch a very cool in space, very different flavor of sci-fi though. Definitely. On the hopeful, transhumanist, Pygmalion myth, astral projection side of space.
It's so good, and that's one of the reasons why I can be so mean in Lost Colony, because I feel like there's yin to my yang, so I can be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be mean as hell, because I know Tracy's, it's gorgeous, like everything about it's really cool. And
it's super cool because I've played through the whole campaign. Daryl has played through the campaign how many times?
3.
What are you doing?
Because of playtesting. Because I'm there, right? Like,
but it's cool. It's got some really unique, different kinds of adventures in it. We had a lot of fun. We're all very excited for her to see how our campaign goes.
For sure.
You'll see us pushing it a lot because she's a personal friend. We game with her every week. But it's not a Pinnacle product. But it's definitely got our seal of approval.
And because we've played it, it's like we're not just making this up. It's like, no, I played this. It's great. Therefore, I got to say something.
Played one of my favorite characters, in fact, in it.
Yeah, my character died in the first round. Robot had a heart attack. Thanks, Dice. Yeah.
Blue
great.
screen of death.
World.
Right? It's great. It's great.
Simon had a heart attack last week in our our Lost Colony playtag.
I don't even think that was with the pluses. I think I just rolled the 1 and then the 20. It was just like, really, that's how we're going with this. So, yeah, I mean, I even pulled the like, really, can a robot have a heart attack? But it wasn't, the way the character was built, it wasn't,
It's a circuit failure.
redundant. Yeah, right. Circuit failure. But it wasn't like redundant organs or whatever. So
blue screen of death. Exactly.
Yeah.
If a human can lock up seeing something terrifying, a computer absolutely doesn't even take something terrifying. You just, I don't know, tell it to divide by 0 and it blows up.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So folks are mentioning that you do not have to start at novice. Maybe not the best thing if you're taking on a reckoner.
Yeah. So we say at the beginning of the campaign, recommended, at least be veteran. You can be heroic and it still works just fine. You can try it at seasoned, but whew. In video game parlance, you're playing on insanity if you do. Like, you might make it.
So Daryl, since this is probably in production now, are we going to have, if people get the pawns, and the only way to get the pawns is in the campaign because they're going to get shrink wrapped to the book to protect them, will there be one of the grinder? So
I haven't seen it yet, but we did order top down of the ground grinder, and on the flip side, the interior of the ground grinder. So you can fight over who's got the big cabin, who's driving, who's on the autocannon.
I mean, everyone in chat decided they want to go camping in this new awesome vehicle. So
they went camping last night in playtest, and it did not go well.
the National Lampoon. Is that where when Grandma dies or Shane dies, you strap him to the chair to the roof and just keep a little tarp over him for the rest of the movie?
Funny you should say that. One of our buddies, Michael Kahn, died, and we strapped him to the top of the ground grinder, and turns out he wasn't done dying.
What's that smell?
Later,
he was very harrowed and very, very irritated when they unwrap him from the plastic. Oh, so good.
Oh my god, guys! See, I'm jealous not getting to play these games. So, welcome, Knights of Smith Dinner Table. So for folks not aware, there won't be one tonight because it's every other Thursday. But they are running Altered Morality on the Peg Inc. Stream channel, which is a Necessary Evil actual play. It's so good. Like, one, Necessary Evil is just I love Necessary Evil. It is like Superman is my he's the worst. Like, there's just I morally hate Superman. He's just like goody two shoes. Can't kill him. Yeah,
that explains so much about him, Chris.
Right? I mean, I'm Lex Luthering it over here all day long, and I love Necessary.
He does hate Superman because he's bald. So
that's right.
The most relatable villain origin ever.
Right. Henry Cavill's hairline is a threat.
You made me lose my hair. I hate you, Superman.
But yeah, so I love Necessary Evil. So I just got mine, so I'll have to do a little unboxing on the next kind of stream we've got. So you could, oh my god, it's gorgeous. So we will get that on the thing, but not tonight. But it's every other Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern is the actual play. But tonight we're gonna roll in another 20 minutes. We'll do a little break between shows, but we're gonna have Savage Universe. You don't have to go anywhere else. Stay on after we're done, and we're going to do 9 Worlds. Our former in-house, now excellent leader over at Metamorphic, John Stevens, put together a little cyberpunk meets Norse mythology jumpstart setting. So stay here for that, folks.
John is so awesome too. I'll say that too.
Right? He's a nice dude.
So many awesome people out there.
We're very blessed.
And so Knight Smith, they're plotting on doing a Lost Colony show at some point. So see all the goodness. Let me throw out one more question. We've got 10 minutes left in the campaign, So we'll get over the page there pretty soon. We are, oh, wow. You guys we are over 42,000. So thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Life, universe, everything number. We have hit it. Check that box off. So we appreciate that.
I get to eat lunch tomorrow. Yes.
Please, I'd like some more.
Please,
So I asked our comments from the fans. Do either of you kind of want to talk about? Shane mentioned it, and it will be on the agenda because I think Simon is slotting it in for sooner versus later. Dark Ages. Little introduction to what it is, where it fits in with the whole Deadlands. We're doing the Pan Deadlands chat tonight. We are going into space or post-apocalypse, the historical Deadlands, and now we're going even back further, pre-Old West. So what is Dark Ages?
So if you're familiar with the Weird West, we revealed the identity of the Cackler a while back. If you don't want to be spoiled, I mean it's almost 10 years old at this point, but just in case, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the Cackler was Mordred. He's been hanging out all these years since Arthurian times, trying to bring his mother, Morgan Le Fay, back, or Morgana. And in the Weird West, he was successful in the graphic novel, The Cackler. And she's up to no good. And what is it that Morgana wants above all else? She wants to ruin the reputation of her hated brother. So she is flitting back and forth, not necessarily voluntarily, between the Dark Ages and now to do just that. And in so doing, sets a lot of the story of Deadlands into motion. So you will find out all kinds of secrets in Dark Ages per the story of Deadlands that will really complete kind of the lore cycle of all that. Not that there aren't, a million tales we still want to keep telling after that, but as far as how this all got started, where it all ends up, that is where you're going to find it. It was written by John Goff 5 years ago. So it's been sitting for a while because we were waiting for some of these other changes to play out, and then those got updated and added to the book. So it's going to start off with, it's heavily inspired by the movie Excalibur. We don't pretend that it's not. And that's where that story, it's called the Once and Future King, is the plot point campaign for Dark Ages. And then we have other stories to tell after that. But that's where all the stuff that's going to tie into the big storyline is going to happen.
Nice. Yeah, Vinny the Mage gets it. I mean, I think I pitched a storyline to Shane, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago at this point. I was like, I got this idea for a thing that could just tie. It could go through they could go through Rome, and it could go through, like, Dark Ages wasn't a thing on my radar then. But I was like, oh, we could get it through the thing. And it was a convoluted mess. But yes, there is a lot of historical appreciation. Because, Shane, you're a history buff, right? You got your degree in history, didn't you?
I do. Right there.
Nice.
It's a master's degree. I put some work into it. Yeah.
I only minored in history, but yeah.
So I got a double major in college. I went to Virginia Tech for those from that area of the world. Go Hokies. I got a double major in political science and history. And then I got my master's in special operations and low intensity conflicts, which sounds fancy, but it is history largely, and how it pertains to the modern world, right? So a lot of that works its way into what I do. And I got it for myself. I never intended to do anything with it particularly. I do it because I enjoy it. But it does inform a lot of my opinions about how these things work out. And I do love history. I mean, you're barely seeing my history shelf here, and
I mean, you have a pith helmet on your wall.
Yeah, I'm a student of the Anglo-Zulu War. I actually went to Zululand a few years ago and traveled with Zulus and with Brits and got to see the battlefields and go to those places, and it was just amazing. I got to dance with Zulus and all kinds of awesome stuff. I got a kiss on the cheek from a Zulu that I left the lipstick there for hours and hours. It was on St. Patrick's Day because I was just so happy to be there. It was an incredible experience. But I love history. History is often stranger than fiction. I mean, you just can't make up some of the things that happen sometimes, right? And when we write our books and our tales and do our fiction, a lot of times I'll say, well, this feels a little too out there, and then I'll remember, oh well, that's nothing compared to whatever. But we do try to rationalize and set it up so you're not left out in the cold with it. But
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
yeah, and I think because we do a lot of historical stuff, Rippers, Deadlands, etc. I think it grounds it a little more and then makes the fantastic look that much cooler as opposed to just history or just fantasy. It feels relatable.
Yeah, and the nice thing is there's thousands of source books that you can use to get more detail on things.
Yes, Nelson. And not only does that happen, Nelson, but that is the director's daughter playing Igraine while that happens. So
Oh,
pretty weird. Yeah, John Borman, that's his daughter playing Igraine.
oh, there's therapy after that. There's oh my God.
They've been interviewed about that many times since, and they're like, it's just acting. Okay.
And also, could you stop bringing this up, please?
Every family dinner.
You made it weird.
Oh,
It's an incredible movie, right? And it has that. And that's an interesting take on history as well, because it's not actually particularly historical. I mean, we don't know anything about King Arthur. That sort of armor that they wear wasn't around in the Dark Ages. All kinds of stuff. But Excalibur is a fairy tale of King Arthur, told as as kind of with a modern eye, and that's kind of how we looked at Dark Ages as well. It is mostly grounded. You're going to be wearing, at best chainmail and that kind of stuff. But Mordred, the Cackler, who is a very different being at this point in the story, is going to be running around in plate mail that literally hasn't been invented yet because he's Mordred.
Oh, that's so good.
So I think
there's a couple other things that haven't been invented yet that show up too, right?
There might be some other stuff going on that happened to find its way back to the Dark Ages. But I think that's what really makes it exciting. Simon has been an absolute stickler on the art. Oh no, this pattern of wattle and daub wall is not correct for the Dark Ages. So that's been really cool. And as a historian, I really appreciate that. And again, when the fantasy stands out, we can call it out and make it special, as opposed to just, well, you guys didn't know what you're talking about.
An actual Brit working on a King Arthur thing?
Actual Brit.
Yeah,
He's from the Dark Ages.
Well.
And he's a peasant. Let's be real. One more question about the current one. Do we get a chance?
That one yet.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
Awesome. You have to buy to find out.
Yeah, Vanessa gets to wait until the fourth one. We'll see.
Oh,
but if you want to read, I think it's there's a free piece of fiction on our website. Hellstrom Triumphant, I think is the name.
Yes, Hellstrom Triumphant. Yep.
Yeah, it tells you the story of Hellstrom, his third trip to hell, where he rescues Vanessa.
Might give you some context for things that are happening in the story.
But we do like a happy ending. We'll see what happens. Daryl's kind of a jerk though, so
I am a bastard.
he's right.
So here's the problem. It's much easier to get into hell than it is to get out. Hellstrom getting in is no problem.
Well, yes. I mean, we have a virtual tunnel to hell here with the infinite screens, with the barbershop effect. Just over a minute left. I mean, that's the whole tunnel thing is a big thing about how Lost Colony happened. So, yeah, I just love it. Right, the tunnel breaks down from Earth, and you're literally Lost Colony. It's such a good plot device.
Which is another nod to history, right? I mean, it's inspired by Lost Colony of Roanoke Island.
Roanoke, yeah.
Yeah.
So I absolutely had to get my Roanoke dig in on Maw of Oblivion.
Yeah. Right, and you've got all the indigenous there with their own infighting and whatever, and then the European powers come over and fight. So the same thing is you brought your reckoners and you're gonna come have your war on our land. It's great. Oh, very good. So 30 seconds left, folks. We appreciate all of the backers. Over 680 of you. I mean, we're the dollar amount is wonderful always, but we really like to see the backer number. And the rule in the industry is usually every supplement from a main book goes down by a significant chunk, and this line has not. So this is we've upticked our number, and the number of people who have backed at the all in is great. So welcome to Lost Colony. Yeah. We appreciate you guys backing us. It's been a great night.
Thanks for sticking around to see how it goes.
So final second, last chance, 0. So yeah, we appreciate you guys and gals. It's been wonderful. But stick around. I'm gonna put on some music and a screen, and we're gonna invite John Stevens on in about 2 minutes to talk about the 9 Worlds Jumpstart for Savage Worlds as part of the Savage universe. So, guys, go have a little bathroom break, get yourself a drink, and if not, play some Savage Worlds this weekend, because that's the best thing we can do is get together with friends and enjoy this wonderful game. So thank you, Shane. Thank you, Daryl. And we will see the rest of you in a few minutes after a intermission bathroom break. So talk to you guys soon.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are now in the Savage Universe portion of our stream for the next few minutes, and welcome to the stream, John, our Viking hero. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks, Chris.
So, Shane, what's it like watching our little John, who is part of the amazing team that we brought in-house, revolutionized the VTT tabletop industry portion of our RPG industry, got too big for their britches to be Under Armour anymore, and have now are off the #1 producer of VTT content, Metamorphic Digital. Congratulations. What's it like seeing them come back and do some Savage Worlds setting building?
Well, I would spin that a little differently. We have been blessed from the beginning to get John's help in a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that people just take for granted, right? But from a long time back, John's been doing VTT stuff for us. He is a proselytizer and enthusiast of us, and supports us when we have bad days and when we have bad releases and bad times, and is always there with a kind word. He gives us crazy detailed analysis so that we can make sure that we're actually doing the right thing, especially with our VTT. And as we spun off Aaron Acevedo's Sigil Studios into Metamorphic, it was a genius thing that Aaron and Amy and John and a bunch of guys, Chris Valentine as well, started in the beginning. And now that Metamorphic has become its own thing, it's even bigger and better. And John's been there every step of the way. 9 Worlds is something that he actually pitched to us a while back, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Our problem is we just have too many settings already, right? We have our hands full, and we are a small group of people. But getting to work with John both on the VTT side and watching him be his own creator and have success with 9 Worlds is very. It's a very good feeling to see that happen. Very rewarding.
Nice. Well, I'm going to throw out the first question to you, John. Video Mage asks, where is 9 Worlds? Has it come out on Kickstarter BackerKit yet? We're just at the quick start phase, which I'll throw up a link here in chat really soon. So where's the project at, and where is it heading, sir?
The project is at the quick start phase. So there is no backer kit, there's no Kickstarter, there's no crowdfunder at this stage. We've got the Jumpstart adventure out in both PDF and as a Foundry VTT module. And I would say, it's fully complete in and of itself. You could buy this Jumpstart and you could run it and you would have everything that you need and you would have had a great adventure. So it's not a Jumpstart in the sense of like just a small taste, although it's only a small taste, but it has everything you need to get up and running and play with the pre-gens with 2 fully drawn battle maps. If you flip over to the VTT side, there's custom dice and cards and character sheets and scenes. And so we tried to make it something that if you just got this Jumpstart, you'd be happy. Like you'd run a game and you'd have a good time. And you would want more because anytime anyone plays in this world, they're always like, that's so cool. Like, let's do it again.
Nice. Most excellent. So the link is in the chat to go and pick up the Jumpstart at Drive-Thru RPG. It is under $10. And as Val rightly mentions, it is not. So back when Shane came up with the idea of Jumpstarts, when the Suede Kickstarter was coming out, great idea. Thank you for involving so many of us in that Jumpstart kind of idea. That was a wonderful community building thing, and a lot of really cool settings that come from that. A lot of us only put out a few pages, right? It was a couple, like a little taste of the setting, but this is a behemoth of a Jumpstart that is fully playable. Isn't that right?
Yeah, weirdly, I don't remember the page count right at this moment, but it's big. And it has a full stocked bestiary. Everything has art. Every creature in there has a piece of art. Every NPC that you interact with and talk to, your fixer, whoever, they have art. And so we tried to make this something a little bit more, like we could probably take Jumpstart off the top and just sell this as adventure module or something like that for Savage Worlds and be okay. But we wanted you to know that it's the beginning, not the end. The last war is coming, and so is the rest of the 9 Worlds line.
Nice. So what inspired you to go the Cyber Viking route?
Well, I love cyberpunk. I always liked it. I liked Shadowrun, although I always bounced off the rules growing up, and that kind of stuff. But the grit and the high tech, low life kind of vibe is really my thing. And then I loved how it could get mixed with fantasy in certain ways. And it was Shane, actually, so he's here. Shane always said Savage Worlds is something, but with a twist. And Shane is twisted, so his twist is always horror. So it's like the Weird West with a twist. It's, going to university with horror. It's, whatever you're doing, you're going to get, scared and killed. So I said, well, what's my twist? And I just love Norse mythology. I grew up reading mythology books, Greek too. And I just felt like, the Viking kind of mindset, a little bit fatalistic, a little bit like fate's against us, but we're going to fight anyway kind of thing, really seems to vibe good with high-tech, low life, with people who go out there, seeking glory for its own sake in a kind of a world where everything's pitted against you and where, the deck's stacked, not in your favor. And so I just felt like that sense of Viking, of that kind of credo and culture just fit really well with the tech and the world and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so there are more than just humans in this setting. So do you want to talk a little bit about how, what are the ancestry options in 9 Worlds? And there's bioengineered beings too. So the what went into the design of the non-humanoids? Are the Alpha, the Virger, and the Jotun? Is that right, Jotun?
Sure.
You need a pronunciation guide for all of us non-Vikings.
In some cases, we do have in brackets next to things a little bit of pronunciation on some of the Norse words and stuff.
Where are the vowels, guys? Where are the vowels?
It's fun. Yeah, it's a bit odd sometimes for us, but yeah, all of the ancestries first come out of Norse mythology, right? And then I said, well, what's the pseudoscientific kind of twist that we would put on it to put it into a cyberpunk world? So, contrast that with like Shadowrun, where there was like an awakening and these beings kind of appeared, right? The goblinization happened, the awakening happened. Here, they're born out of science and technology. So the whole setting kind of takes place after a war has been fought. And so the world was almost devastated and everybody's crowded together in this mega city, huddled to survive, while those who've unlocked the secrets of immortality live above them in these floating platforms, And so these other beings came to being during the war. So the Alpha, the elves, were genetically engineered to be clone warriors who fought for the Aesir Corporation during the First War. The Divergers were grown in vats to be industrial workers. The Thurs are boar human hybrids that were made to fight. But then after the war, they're just released into the general population. They just exist. And so they're there. So their background is pseudoscientific, genetic. Humans are still the most prevalent, but there's all these other bioforms at play. The Svart elves themselves are just accidents. They were elves that something went wrong, and so this whole other subset was born. So that's where they come from. They come from the mythology, and I try to nod to the mythology. So you take something like the Diverger. I said they're vat grown. Like in Norse mythology, they're actually like little larvae that are taken off the world tree and then formed into dwarves. In the world. And so the Aelfir were always beautiful and almost godlike themselves. And so that they were these emissaries and warriors of the gods became then, that's how we take them to be these mystic, magical warriors who then get regular jobs and dye their hair and get earrings and stuff like that. And so it kind of like
401ks.
And then the Thurs, the trolls of, they're not giants. Those are the Jotun. There's these other things, trolls. So what are they? And so they're these, boars are pretty significant also in Norse stories and culture. And so they're these boar human hybrids with the tusks. It gives you that kind of feel of the troll or the orc from other cyberpunk settings, but grounds it in the mythology a little bit. So.
Nice. So taking the mythology and kind of incorporating some really interesting modern takes, you've got these setting features like mega corporations, right? So you've got like the Aesir Research and the Jotun Heavy Industries. How do they shape the world, and how do the players interact with those?
They shape everything in the world. They're big corporations. They're controlled. So immortals are immortals in this world, not because they're gods with powerful abilities, but because they unlocked technologically the secrets of immortality, right? So they're these people who live forever. In something like Altered Carbon, you'd see the Meths, right? And so because they live forever, because they live up in their sky palaces, because they don't have the same concerns. Are they even human anymore, right? They're so disconnected from the reality of the person on the street. And so they're the ones who control these big corporations, and these big corporations kind of control everything, right? And so, Jotun Heavy Industries and Aesir, they all kind of are at each other's throats in we're in a Cold War period, right? They fought a war. Now we're in this Cold War, and we're all waiting for the last war, the Ragnarok, to come. And so in this intermediate time, they can't really attack each other directly, right? There's a bit of a truce going on. And so they need to get at each other's throats indirectly. And so, there's corporate espionage, and there's maybe I'll blow up their facility, or maybe I'll capture their researchers, or, the Jotun were really mad. That's what started the First War, that the Aesir wouldn't share with them the secrets of immortality. So Jotuns are immortal because they're cybernetic. They're basically full conversion cyborgs. And that's what makes them giants too, right? But, and so they're always trying to unlock the secret for themselves. It's always the same war being fought, just now in the background at a low simmer, where deniable assets and plausible deniability and some people who are just cogs in the machine and pawns on the board become really useful. And they also make great player characters too.
Yeah, I really loved the very similar blending that Charles White did with Olympus Inc., which was Greek mythos runs into corporate and a little future tech. And I mean, it's a great mix. So I love that you're bringing those kind of elements in here, because it's fresh, it's interesting, it's really fun to play too, because you got just so many options that aren't just dungeon delving or murdering your way. You've got corporate espionage and politics, and the and the equipment stuff is fun too. I mean, equipment porn is kind of one of the big things about future tech. So the on the opposite,
we kind of avoided that. It's not so much in the jumpstart that you'll see it, but we actually have a very narrow band of gear, and then what we did was just let a lot of options for customization. So you get the gear, you get the pack, it does some stuff, and then you can chrome it up. So those people who like to niggle in the details and that kind of stuff, they can do that with their chrome. There's no credits in the system. It uses the wealth die, and the GM can give out these chrome points for people to beef up their gear and stuff like that. So it has the effect of there's infinite amounts of gear and lots of stuff, but it also has the effect of the gear table is pretty small. there's only 4 guns. Because in Savage Worlds, Shane would know this better than anybody. He's on there. You only have so many 2d6 guns with differentiation, right? And so the differentiation comes in style and in this game.
Yeah, and that's just a very smart way to make it in Savage Worlds, right? Like folks who aren't native to Savage Worlds wouldn't understand that. Like that's just not how we do things. It's so much easier to, flavoring, trappings, all those things are how you make the infinite possibilities. You don't need the author to give you an expansive gear list. You need to give them just enough, the right tools so you can, you can make it the way you want it, play it how you want to play it. So so on the other end, so we've got the techie crunch stuff. What about like the magic, the mysticism? Like, what role does the satyr and the rune tech play in the setting, and how does that differ from traditional fantasy?
The satyr is really rooted in like the magic, shamanistic type magic of Norse culture itself, and so that's, I think, the most important part. And the way they've been played really, really well in the playtesting, because we tried to build them as these doomsayers, oracle types, diviners, and so they really, freak people out. They're a little unnerving, right? And so that's what their power is driven from, and they're kind of all about fate and twisting fate. We had one guy in the playtest, he did it so good. He would just use environmental manipulation the whole time to like make the lights go low and, things happen. And he would say, your doom is approaching, And more than once, they just use the fear power and give somebody a heart attack and become the most powerful people on the board. So the satyr are there as a kind of a weird, in WYRD, maybe in Norse terms, is kind of the weird element of it. And the rune tech is like, okay, well, we've got magic and we've got technology. Of course, we got to bang them together, right? And so runes in kind of Norse mythology and in Norse practice, we're always inscribed on everything to be able to give them blessing or to be able to give them power or to be able to ward off this or ward off that. And so that's the heart of it there. It's just a bit of a take on weird science, maybe a blend of weird science from the core book and the tinkerer from the fantasy companion kind of put together to say, yeah, they can make these weapons. And then I don't like crafters like as players, like where they just make these weapons and sell them and they got these side hustles and all this kind of stuff. So the big rune tech is not really accessible except, to you through adventure and play and that kind of stuff. And that's where you get the really cool items. They're just basically magic items, but we call them technology, Arthur C. Clarke magic items. And so that's kind of where we are with the rune tech. And so that kind of permeates everything as well. But it's also a differentiator, like your bad guys, your big bad evil guys are going to have a rune tech shotgun that's going to like blow a hole in you instead of just a regular shotgun or something like that.
Nice. So we got to kick Shane out to go have dinner with the fam. So one last question for you, Shane. What's it like seeing Savage Worlds, your baby, become the Savage Universe with all the aces and the people doing media and bringing their own ideas into your system? I mean, that's got to be a pretty cool legacy to look at.
Well, I'll tell you what. So what I love is, and it goes back to Ryan Dancy and the OGL, to start with, we're the first company that I know of to allow other people to use their systems. I love seeing the creativity of people get unbound, right? And sometimes making an entire system behind that is daunting, or it just doesn't make sense for the time or level of energy you want to put into it. So your Buccaneer game, Chris, I thought was super cool. What was the name of it?
Yeah, Buccaneer Hell and High Water. Yeah.
Hell and High Water.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think mentioning Olympus Inc. was a really cool thing, and I think doing a crossover with Nine Worlds would be awesome.
Yeah.
So whether it's Savage Worlds or any other system, I love this era we're in where somebody like John can take his baby and put it out there for the world and share it, right? And it's just it's like the same as with Tracy and Han Cluster. We said, no matter what happens on the crowdfunding, print the thing, have it because you want it. And then, if you have to sell it after that, then you sell it after that. It's happened, to us on several projects. Sometimes they hit big right from the start. Sometimes you got to work at it, but don't be afraid of work because it's your baby and you can keep pushing it. And in this era of, projects launch with $1 million, sometimes those that don't look as good, but that's not. It's great, right? It's great when it happens, but it's just so wonderful to be able to get your product out there in a physical form and hold it up to your friends and say, "Do you want to play my game?" Right? And they do. And that's awesome. And seeing John do it, again, who's one of the nicest people on the planet, is wonderful for all of us. So
Yeah, John likes Superman.
I love Superman. You just gotta have a good writer.
Yeah,
That's
I think
true.
Superman's fine.
That's true. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, David. Appreciate you having me on the thing.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Just here to say, good job, John. Can't wait to see how you do.
Thank you, sir.
And
Cheers,
having a
boss.
mile on my shelf right here with all the others.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Good seeing you. Cheers.
I'll sign yours.
Awesome.
So how have you found being? I mean, you're deeply involved in Savage Worlds. You've done a multitude of conversions of Ace and in-house Savage Worlds games to the VTT. What's it like developing on your own in the rule set? How have you found that process?
Oh, it's super fun. I mean, I got my first taste of it, because being on the Rifts development team, and certainly writing in Terra and the Dark Frontier. But also that was already done, right? Like somebody did the hard work of coming up, like, how do we make this setting work in Savage Worlds? So it's been fun to be on the ground floor, to be able to say, okay, if I was going to do this myself, because I am, what would I do? And so I've learned a lot of lessons looking at other people's stuff. I've learned a lot of lessons working on the Rifts team. And so, yeah, I really wanted to build something that could just be core Savage Worlds and then put a few things on top.
Well, look who stopped by to say hello and congratulate you on your jumpstart. How's it going, Miss Blissy Marshall, Amy? Good to see you.
She makes us call her doctor at the
Dr. Marshall. I love it. She doesn't start her characters at novice. No, veteran. So there's a cool thing you've got in Nine Worlds, kind of which invokes Viking culture, and it's like the renown system. So it's kind of like Viking status or reputation. So how does that work? How does it affect gameplay, and character progression? What is the renown system?
Renown is, in a lot of cyberpunk settings, you have your street cred, right? So there's some kind of like system for your reputation or something like that. So renown follows in that vein. It's separate from advancement. So you don't get renown as you go up in levels. You get renown as you finish jobs, or you get renown as you, and you can lose renown. So, sometimes you might have to choose, like, do we do the job or do we save the girl? And, like we lose the job, but we save the girl. We get renown, but we don't get any money, or vice versa. And so there's a kind of an in-game mechanic of a big board called the sagas, where all the Viking crews are like tracked. And, as you go up on the board, you can get bigger and bigger jobs. And then it has a mechanical effect so that your level of renown, you can use it to add to your social checks of intimidation or persuasion or different things like that throughout the course of the game. It can help you when you're networking or doing things with connections. Doesn't help you in battle, right? You still got to stand on your own 2 feet, but it helps you in those. Because in a lot of cyberpunk, it's like shaking down the contact, or it's like finding the person or talking to the right person. And so trading on renown can help you. But I'll also put a target on your back. Oh, they're the guys above us in the rankings. So maybe there's a crew who wants to take you down a peg. And so it just adds a social dynamic and mechanicizes it a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. I love when people bring kind of like life path dynamics to Savage Worlds. And so this not being keyed into, it's narrative accomplishments, not just, every other session you get an advance or, experience points, whatever. That's good. As Amy said, when you give the Scald something to sing of, you get another notch on that. So so here's the question: because you're the big developer, are you doing your own VTT work for this?
Am I doing my own VTT work?
Yeah,
I did a lot of it myself because I know what to do. But I'm working with Metamorphic on publishing it. They're my publisher partner in this, and so that was good, because then when I needed something I didn't know how to do, I was able to reach into their code base or their designer base and be like, hey, how do I? So if you open the Jumpstart, like, this is a small thing, but if you go to where, like, there's the picture of the woman with like the fire coming out of her hands. I think it's.
Oh, I took snippets. I took snippets. I'll go find the full one. Yeah.
But if you go to that page in the Foundry module, that fire is like crackling, like glowing in the journal. And so we're just able to have people to be able to do stuff like that. So much fun, So I would say I got it to like 80%. But even the maps, the battle maps, one of our cartographers drew them, but I was able to work directly with him to be able to work on them. Then when we put them in Foundry and walled and lit them, we had the guy who does, oversees all the maps for the Paizo APs come in and say, oh yeah, well, why don't you do this or change this? We're able to get someone to do sound because the module has, music track for every scene. So yeah, it was just allowed us access to a bench depth that I wouldn't have on my own.
Yeah, no, that is excellent, and I want to let me throw this one up here now, and you can kind of talk about it. I love the like these kind of pieces in the book. To me, this speaks to I think Donald Shepis would call it the Ludo narrative, not opposite dissonance, concordance, harmony, where it's got the fantasy art elements and the sci-fi art elements, but it also has like the little flow chart. You got like the world tree, right? But it's got the cyberpunk framing and the it's a visual style blend of the two kind of setting the settings like genres. It's a visual genre blend of the mechanical genre that you are mixing. So love it.
And that's actually if you look in like old Norse mythology books, they have like the tree, and that's kind of the look. That big long space elevator that connects the
I know where we could go.
The top to the bottom,
Yeah, this character is the one with the fire hands. These are the archetype cards that we have. Right. I knew I have it somewhere. It's the archetype cards. Right. So who did you have do your art? The art is first rate. I mean, is it all Ani Gosh or?
Ani did some pieces, including that one that we're looking at now. Ron Root did some other ones, including the Berserker, which I just think turned out fantastically. And Ron Root also did the Diverger, so that's the short dwarf type character, which I thought was good because it's actually a unique piece. Like we didn't just go for fantasy dwarves, but we're calling them something else. Why is their skin blue? It's because when they're grown in the vats, they're treated with a chemical that protects them from radiation, and so it's all kind of in there. But just to get the lines on the face that are a little bit different, and the nose and the high eyebrows, bridges. We took a lot of different reference arts, and Ron did a great job with that one too. So Annie and Ron did almost all the art. Jason did Yuta, who does maps for PEG in almost all your products. He did the maps, and then Shar and her team at Irregardless did the layout. This cool background that you see there.
Oh, so good, so good. And then let me do one more thing. I want to kind of zoom into. Let's see. And at the end, I love so you can tell someone who has VTT appreciation on just like the physical maps here. Like one, the grid lines up. So unlike a certain other property where they way before VTT, the grids would not necessarily line up, but your grids will line up on the So yes, this is eminently VTTable, and then it's really nice maps. Like they're well lit, they're artistically polished. So I'm a fan of them.
When you see them on the VTT, they shine, because they're designed that way. But they're designed to be printable too. So I think that's important as well. Like the lessons we learn, like we can make things that are good in print. There's nothing wrong with those maps, right? We could take the grid off, or whatever, and it would be a nice art piece. But it works great in the VTT too. And so one of our goals with this project is to make it work in both seamlessly and smoothly.
So good question from the chat. Ignis at Aqua asks, what happens when you lose the account in a Viking corporation? Are there hostile takeovers? They're actually hostile.
That's right. They throw you into the home gang, which in Viking culture is they would put you on an island with the other guy, and the first guy to punch the other guy to fall in the water would win. Only in this case, it's like an MMA ring.
Oh, nice.
You get out and get yourself out.
So another question on that, you're playing Vikings here, and it's like the Vikings sort of operate as they can as mercenaries for the immortals. So what kind of stories you're telling? What kind of conflicts emerge? What do characters do in your setting?
Oh man, they take jobs. So your fixers in this setting are called crows. They're kind of the intermediaries between the immortals and the Vikings, and they hook you up with all kinds of jobs. We were playing on Monday, and the job was to go in and get this guy who he got cybered up, and he took out a loan but he couldn't pay back his loan. So they track him down, this deadbeat, bring him in, or at least bring in the parts, that he got cybered up so that they could, use them again or whatever. So they go out. Well, it turns out this guy got cybered up so that he could help his sister pay off her gambling debts. And it turned out that the corps were like ratcheting up the difficulty on the gambling slot machines so that more people would get in debts, and then they were selling them, their debts into service of another corporation so they could do experiments on them. And so the Vikings uncover all this kind of stuff, and then they have to always have to decide, am I just going to do the job, beat up the guy and bring him in, or now are we going to help the girl with the gambling debts? And it's that kind of stuff. You're in the weeds, and it's the corporations doing bad stuff to good people, and how am I still going to get paid but pull this off? And so there's always kind of a creativity around that I think is super fun.
Yeah, really good. We have a really good question from Billy Berserker. Any plans? I know it might be early. The book is not in print yet, but any plans to include other pantheons, their deities, Egyptian, Greek, into the overall setting, or are you going to keep it Norse?
Yeah, it's going to stay Norse for now. I don't have any problem. I could see it working, like you already mentioned, Olympus Inc. I see what's they're called, City of Mist guys are doing a crowdfunder right now for Egyptian gods in Cyberpunk or something like that. So go for it, man. If you got an idea. I would pick Norse for two reasons. One, like I mentioned off the top, I think the cultural fit with Cyberpunk is just huge. I think the other reason is it resonates. Whenever you just say to somebody, yeah, they're Vikings, but they're in Cyberpunk world, they're like, okay, yeah. And like they're ready to go. Your elevator pitch is so simple. Everyone knows what's expected of them when they get their weapons and their axes in their hands and they're trying to, do the job.
Nice. So speaking of the interesting mechanics and then pantheons and the immortals. So Vikings can die, and you have a really kind of cool new element mechanic called the Valhalla contract, which is kind of a unique take on resurrection mechanics. So what's the inspiration for this idea? How does it work? How does it influence player decisions? Well, yeah, tell us about the Valhalla contract.
So I'll just say what it is first, then I'll talk about the influences and how it affects gameplay. So it is essentially every Viking is signed up to the Valhalla contract. You can get a hindrance that you opt out of it if you want, but why would you? And it means basically if you die like in combat, what will happen is you can say, okay, I'm activating my Valhalla contract. It's like your medic alert bracelet, and you turn it on, and immediately you pop back up again. You're flooded full of whatever, nanites and drugs and different things like that to restore you. You get your bennies back, you get your wounds healed until the end of that encounter. And then you get out of that encounter and the Valkyries show up from the Valkyrie Medical Rescue Service. They swoop in, they take your body, and you're dead. You're still dead. You still die. But your character is now in service to the immortals, revived up there somewhere waiting for the last war to occur. And so the reason I did that is a couple things. One, I'm a developer for Rifts. I love the Blaze of Glory rule. Two, everyone knows what it's like to be lying on the ground making bleeding out rolls all the time while everybody's fighting. And so I just felt like that was a bit of another instance of a kind of a shaken lock. So if you choose to, you don't have to do that. You can just lie on the ground and make your bleeding out rolls if you want that character to continue. Great. But if you don't choose to, if you just want to go out and really have a song sung about you in tales long ago, then this is what you do. And then the other inspiration in cyberpunk fiction, like Shadowrun, you have the dock wagon, right? They're always kind of flowing in and like pulling people out of the fire and rescuing them and that kind of stuff. So blended dock wagon, Valhalla, Valkyries, and this idea of like my last gasp from hell's heart, I stab at thee, and at the end of this encounter, I die.
Yeah, so good. And chat approves. Chat loves it. So the folks, the Jumpstart is available now. I'm throwing up a comment in the viewer of choice. It is only $8.49 right now. That is a steal. 29 pages. It comes complete with the introductory adventure, a snapshot of the larger setting, the archetypes which I ran through on while we were chatting with, all have art and great stats, and new fun ancestries to play. So after folks dig into this, what are your plans? What are the next plans beyond the Jumpstart?
Yeah, I had a meeting yesterday with the publisher, and we're just talking through like deadlines and stuff like that to be like, okay, when do we have to have something done by so we can hit the next phase? What's the marketing and that kind of stuff. So I've been playing it every week now for the last little while. We ran through a plot point campaign through the summer a while ago. So the text is all there. So I just need to massage it and get it into like a usable, coherent format. And then we'll go from there. Whether it's a crowdfunder, whether it just gets published, I think is more up to Metamorphic than to me, how they want to do the funding for it.
Well, awesome. Well, keep us in the loop. We'll get you the newsletter when you have the next big announcement. But folks, head over to Drive-Thru RPG, pick it up now. It is a steal for under $10. Look at that awesome cover. I love that cover. I mean, is that an Elfier with the gun on the right with the little pink mohawk and the
Annie just did that. It was awesome. I would say you could also go to foundryvtt.store and buy the module.
Oh.
It's pretty sweet too. It looks great. If you go to search up there, you could probably just type in 9 Worlds.
Yeah, you were on the front page when they launched, which is awesome. But
yeah, they were good to me. I knew a few people.
There
It is.
Yeah. So yeah, gorgeous. Oh, look at that. I really like the animation you did for the video with when it's writing out the ruins.
You know what? That's stock from Adobe. I didn't make that.
It's good.
It's amazing.
That's the way to do it.
That's the opening scene, like when you import the first scene into the adventure, and that little wheel actually spins on the VTT like it did in the video. And that kind of stuff.
Good. So
if you want to go through those screenshots at the bottom there, I could talk a little bit about the module.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about them.
The gallery here. So this is the journals, how they're styled to look like the book, but also, cross-linked and everything you need to do. The next one is the character sheets and the item sheets. So they're all like designed to fit together. So you can see there's the archetype. There's an NPC, a corporate security NPC. I mentioned it's in the book, but I think it's even more important for the module. Everyone has art. So if there's a monster in there or an enemy in there and an NPC in there, they all have a piece of art. And then the last one is the cards and dice that come with the module.
Love it. That's very stylistic. I hadn't seen these yet. Oh, nice. I know, I love it. So you've got stylized dice, really cool cards. Sir, you are an artist. And then, of course, all the tokens. And
and it uses everything in Foundry, dynamic tokens. So, when you pull them out onto the board, they actually have a little bit of a glowy background. We tried to lean into everything that Foundry does because we know how to make Foundry modules. So why not? And like I said, we wanted it to be something that if you just bought this, you would be happy, right? Very few custom modules are coming out right now with the character sheets, the item sheets, the journals, all styled, for just one adventure. But we were able to do it because we know how, and we're happy to give it to people.
Well, and Val has run this at conventions twice, and the fans love it too. So Val would not blow smoke. He'd tell like it is.
No, he's more than happy to tell me when I'm being wrong.
Well, so now what I'm hearing is Val is offering to run this during our Friday game. So that's what I'm hearing is that we're going to be playing some 9 Worlds soon. So I'm excited to dig into it. I think
it's been the best to have people report back playing it. Like it's got 2 different notices on Discord this week. Hey, we ran this. It was so much fun. We did this. We did that. I was like, that's worth the price of admission right there.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, again, like I said, an hour ago, playtesting is at the heart of what makes Savage Worlds and Pinnacle a great thing to play because it's not just pretty on paper in your mind to read. It is meant to be fun to play. And likewise, congratulating Tracy. Tracy did an extraordinary amount of outreach to get playtesting done, and she's taken the feedback really well. So I love seeing that. That's so much better than the armchair RPGists who are like, I have a good idea. I'm going to throw it on a piece of paper and it's like it never get played. And you actually play it. It's awful. Like that does not happen here. We avoid that by like the universal Omni Plague in Mad.
It's actually because I'm lazy. Like if I run a Savage Tale, now I've suddenly, the players have interacted with it, and then they ask me a question, like, I have no idea, and I make something up, and now I have that thing that goes back into the thing. So it's developed in play by playing as well, which I think you see it, even the way it's laid out and the tools we give in the main manuscript to GMs. It's designed to be played, not looked at. But it looks good too.
It is still very pretty.
Yeah.
So awesome! I'm excited to get into the playtest of this because I have voluntold Val, and my feedback on what it looks like now is it looks great, and I really like digging into the new mechanics you put together. It feels very at home in Savage Worlds, but also very fresh. So I think that's about as good as you can ask for. Oh, and Tracy's still in the chat. So folks, again, we have a super long stream tonight, and announcer Chris needs to go and take care of some business. So we really appreciate you guys showing for the long stream. Thank you again for backing our BackerKit campaign for Mad World, and thanks for showing up for Savage Universe 9 Worlds, John. It's great. Again, really pleased with all the work you've done for Pinnacle and making our stuff look so good and play so well on the VTTs. We definitely punch above our weight class in that division, and that's a lot of thanks to you and Val and Amy and all the crew at Metamorphic. So we do appreciate you all, and thanks Jody for hanging out on stream and confirming all the stuff that giving us ammo to make fun of Shane and Simon and Daryl for. But so guys, again, go out, pick up 9 Worlds, available now. Mad World, not available now. You got to wait for the pledge manager to kick in. And Han Cluster this month, I think March 20 something or other. Tracy will confirm, she's in the chat. But so yeah, go to the follow page. It's Shane shared it, I shared it. It's on the Savage Worlds Facebook group. Coming to BackerKit, there's probably a follow on BackerKit. Let me see. I'm gonna go find it now. As long as I'm here, let's just do this. So
March 25th. There you go.
March 25th. Nice. Okay. BackerKit. Let's go find it and put it in the. There we go. It's here. So I'm going to give you the landing page because that is the best thing to do. So Han Cluster. So follow Han Cluster now. So guys, a little tip, just because I get a little leeway because I run crowdfunding campaigns for a living, but I'm not on this one. But these follow pages are a really great way because you'll love it. You want to see it, but you want to be a first day backer. So join everybody else following the Han Cluster. Look at all the Han Cluster stuff. Look at that.
It's amazing. Yeah.
This is ambitious, people. This is ambitious. So you can get a really awesome preview. Give them the email address. Give BackerKit the email address. You will get the notification. It is worth it.
This makes me want to burn my stuff. I mean, this is amazing.
Well, I think this might be coming to VTT because it looks really good. So, yeah, so support all the things, guys. There's 11 days left for you to save up some extra money to get in on Han Cluster. You can spend that money right now on 9 Worlds. We already took your money on Mad World. So, yeah, go out there and make some more money so we can all have some more Savage Worlds goodness in our lives. And so thank you, Tracy. Thank you, everyone else who's in the chat, Jody and John and Amy and everybody else. Appreciate all of the creativity and the wonderful games that we get to play around the table with all of you. And I think the next time you'll see any of us in public, we're going to be heading down to Chupacabra. It'll be light, but there's going to be some fun playing down in Chupa. We're going to get some Rifts games in and some sneak peeks at what's happening with the in the ETU universe and all the lovely folks down there. So I think that's in May. So check out Chupacabra. I think that's the next place you'll see some PEG people. I think even Carl Kieser's going to be there. So come enjoy it. And if not, again, go play some Savage Worlds this weekend. Make some friends. And if Jody says roll some double ones, and because those are always the best with the crit fails. So have some crit fails, have some fun, get some Savage Worlds goodness. And other than that, I am glad that the time change week is drawing to a close because it's tough losing that hour. So anyways, appreciate you guys joining us next Thursday. Not next Thursday. I misspoke. It usually is every other Thursday for the Altered Morality, but they're going to be at a convention, so it's not next Thursday. So keep a track of the Pinnacle newsletter. Go sign up, and you'll get notifications for all the fun things like Han Cluster and 9 Worlds and Mad World and all the stuff in the Savage Worlds and Savage Universe. other than that, good evening, folks. The Peller, you arrived just too late. Appreciate you, buddy, coming in, but we are signing off. Enjoy the weekend, folks. Take it easy.